YellowTelescope's YellowTelecast, the best practices for the best practices, providing the medical industry's best practices, the medical industry's best practices since 2008. Are you a doctor? Do you work for a doctor? Do you want to earn more, be more efficient, retain your team, hire for success, or just want to have a better lifestyle? I bet you do. What should you expect from the podcast? A lighthearted, casual, fun, hopefully funny, informative, impactful, well-founded look at the medical industry from a pair of passionate, competent, confident, experienced, talented, unquestionably good-looking industry leaders, men of the Renaissance, if you will, and even if you won't, who have hired, trained, and overseen some of the nation's top medical practices while enjoying Scotch whiskey, world travel, music, single malt Scotch whiskey, fine dining, not fine dining, family, art, Ryan bourbon whiskeys, and maintaining an absolutely perfect track record of growing practices by between $100,000 and over $1 million within the first year every damn time. Listen to the podcast, and for more on how Yellow Telescope can help grow your practice, visit YellowTelescope.com for upcoming events, published articles, recorded speeches, past issues of our complimentary email newsletter, testimonials, and more. Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Numero 6.
I think so.
I think so. That's 6 in Espanol, for those of you.
Welcome to the Yellow Telescope, Yellow Telecast, Best Practices for the Best Practices podcast.
Episode 6.
Fantastic partner Ed Searing. I'm
John Hoffenberg, everybody.
Great to have you. Well, where are we today?
Oh, man, we are coming to you live and recorded, per usual, here from the fabulous Ritz Carlton, Grand Oaks, Orlando, Florida.
Wow. And casino?
And casino. Resort and Casino Convention Center.
Not a casino. One thing you'll be sure to know is that Disney World is never going to allow casinos in this area.
Well,
we're literally surrounded by them, but they're not going to be anywhere near this property.
Hey, going to a theme park is kind of gambling in its own right.
You know what I think of immediately when I think of Orlando?
Disney.
I was going to say the Ritz-Carlton.
Grand Oaks.
Nope.
Great to be here. It's really beautiful outside. What is this? It's technically November.
It's technically November. I know all of you in YouTube land and podcast land are freezing your butts off, possibly in a car, sitting in your tiny little office with your space heater, wondering why you can't move your practice all the way to Miami, in this case Orlando, and I don't feel too bad.
No, not at all. In fact, as long as there's vacancy in Florida, I have no sympathy.
Indeed. Have you been to Disney before? You grew up in Florida, I assume.
Sure.
Multiple times?
Sure, yeah,
Hundreds
absolutely.
of times?
Yeah, I think we even had the Florida frequent, Mickey Pass or whatever it was, and I had the ears, the whole bit.
Yeah, for me, Orlando would probably qualify as one of my least favorite cities on earth.
Yep, that is correct.
I'm not a fan. Don't like it, haven't liked it, but I'm not going to be a negative Nancy.
No.
I'm having a good time. If you're going to do Orlando, you might as well come to this event, as you said, at the fabulous Ritz-Carlton Grand Oaks, and we're actually here for the network of Florida otolaryngologists meeting, which is really exciting to say 3 times fast. Network of Florida otolaryngologists, network of Florida otolaryngologists, network of Florida ENTs. Much easier that way.
The NFO.
And it's nice to be invited. We got a couple of speeches in today. We got a couple more tomorrow. And we said, why don't we sit on our balcony with the beautiful, I'm just going to guess, Trump International Golf Course.
Sure.
Which it probably isn't.
It's a stunning vista, no less. It's fine.
Almost definitely not.
That's what we're here for.
There are people a few balconies down from us sort of looking at us like, why are those people talking to their window?
Yes.
We're not. We're talking to you.
We fear an audience.
Yeah, but the weather's gorgeous. You got a beautiful view behind us, and
not exactly hot out here.
No, I mean we typically, almost every podcast I seem to make a hot joke, but it's only hot as hell 6 months out of 12 months in Florida, and I'm not gonna make a "it's so hot" or "how hot is it" joke, because I got to tell you, Ed, if it were hot, I mean, you'd be able to look right in the beautiful lake pond behind us, and you'd see the ducks, and you'd be able to actually order them original recipe or extra crispy. But I'm not going to make any hot jokes today because it isn't conducive to the weather outside, to the environment in which we live.
That's correct.
So I won't do it.
It'd be inappropriate, frankly.
It would be. So we can just kind of skip that section of the podcast.
Fine with it.
Outstanding.
Should we go over the little topic preview?
Yeah, what are we? Yeah, a little preview of what's coming up here post whiskey.
Yep, post whiskey. So today we're actually going to be talking a little bit. It's actually based on some recent experiences that we've had with some of our clients, medical practice around the country. Of course, YellowTelescope formed 2008. Worked with practices around the country. Every single one's grown by 100,000 to 1.25 million within the first year, 100% of the time.
Wow.
I believe. So I was told. I think John Hoffenberg quoted that. One of the things we found from a growth standpoint is, of course, you can't necessarily grow. One could, I suppose, actually grow consistently every single month after month, year after year, without fail. challenging to do so. Things happen, momentum shifts, maybe sometimes without your control, maybe things tend to slide a little bit and you need to right the ship a bit. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today was the change of momentum when noticing a downward shift within your practice's growth.
Right. And when you describe what do you mean by a kind of a downward shift?
Well, let's say we're tracking results year over year, and we're tracking the growth. Obviously, we'd like to keep it in the green. We want to make sure that we're growing month over month, year over year. But when you actually have one down month, kind of perks the ears up a little bit, makes you notice, raise the eyebrow, if you will, and other cliches.
And other cliches.
And other cliches.
The early bird gets the worm.
And
the night owl gets the fowl.
Oh, yeah, we tried that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
one bad month.
One bad month.
Momentum, then the world's ending, right?
Nope. Absolutely not. Actually, yes, one could react that way, and we'll talk about that. But it's really the second month in a row. That's really when you start noticing things. That's the shift in momentum. One bad month does not a year make.
Yes. Is that even English? I know that people talk in that way, but is that allowed?
I don't know. I'm going to pull it off either way.
Yes, you're the type of guy that can.
I suppose.
So we're looking at kind of talking about what to do when you have a couple of bad months, 3 bad months, sort of a sort of run of decreases year over year, not just one off month, which can happen.
Correct.
It kind of seems to me like practices in general are sort of like your weight over your lifetime. You're going to have some ebbs and flows, but over time it usually goes up.
Okay. Sort of like
I know you and
market.
I are we're eating pretty healthy these days.
I was going to mention you look lithe to me.
You look somewhere between slender and sort of heroin chic.
sort of Blake Lively. That's all I got.
Well, yeah, Ed and I are eating a little better. The season of all of our events, YellowTelescope training seminar, the big Vegas convention, a lot of those things are kind of out of the way where you're just stuffing your food with delicious bone-in ribeyes and truffle mashed potatoes and lobster mac. And
stuffing your food. That's exactly what you said. Literally, that's what happens. You take your food and then you stuff it with more food, and then you put all that double food into your face.
Yeah, what's that thing? It's like where you put the ham with the cheese, with the chicken, ham inside a cheesy chicken.
Cordon bleu, cordon bleu.
It's sort of like the cordon bleu concept for us, about 6 months a year. So we've been, eating a lot of friendly juices, a lot of whey protein. I'd say we're combined down 20 pounds.
Oh, easily.
And that's just the brain loss. The weight's the same, but kind of from the nose up, there's just a missing spot there. But we've lost that, so that's good.
Got a blank space where my mind should be.
Got a Cliff Bar and some cold green tea.
There you go.
I actually am the living embodiment of the following quote, which is, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels."
I can't even use that. That's like pulling off reverse English. I can't do it. Somehow you do.
Actually, we're going to go to a little soiree tonight with the rest of these ENTs and facial plastic surgeons and probably eat our butts off at the beautiful Norman's restaurant at the Ritz Carlton. Fabulous. Grand Oaks, Ritz Carlton, something.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be fabulous.
So we're also drinking whiskey. We're just having one drink because we're taking it easy tonight.
Hey, that's it, man.
So instead of picking up one bottle, we went ahead and picked up 2 wee drams
just a couple of wee drams
at the bar. And what I've got right here is actually the Dalmore 12. The Dalmore is particularly famous for being considered the cigar malt. And you might wonder, why is it called the cigar malt?
I was wondering.
One might assume that it's because maybe it goes well with a cigar or it's smoky.
Yeah.
Turns out it's because it goes well with a cigar. And what's actually interesting, a little history on the Dalmore, which is one of my favorites across the board, consistently good productions.
The stag one.
Yeah, it's got the little stag. You got a deer with all the horns coming out. That's how you know you're drinking a Dalmore. And what's interesting about this distillery is, almost as a marketing ploy, when cigars were really selling like crazy, they decided to craft a whiskey that was specifically formulated to taste delicious with a cigar, which is kind of difficult to do considering you can have something like more robust, like a Robusto, or something more Swisher Sweetie on the opposite extreme.
Sure, I'm not fancy.
So I'm not quite sure how a whiskey is going to work with all of those, but they crafted it. Well, then cigars, with all the anti-tobacco campaigns and so on and so forth, decided, well, gosh.
Was that C. Everett Koop, the Surgeon General, who actually put all those warnings on there?
It might be.
I just like to name drop. That's it.
So we don't really know what happened, but what we do know is that people started to kind of go anti-smoking. You started to see those truth commercials, and cigars became a little less popular, and so they discontinued the whiskey. They then went on just making typical Dalmores. You're 12, you're 18. 18 is something to behold. And then cigars came back again.
Sure.
Sort of this high-end cigar market, sort of your Fuente Opus X's, your Romeo y Julietas, your Cohibas, and other Dominican leafed but close to Cubans, because we can't drink those or smoke those here.
No, not technically.
And they brought it back, but they've only got a limited edition now, which is much more costly. Looking at about $130 bottle, $150 bottle for that these days. So now we're literally just drinking the Dalmore 12. Tasting notes, delicious.
Awesome. Cheers, buddy.
So good, I took a sip before cheersing you. And my partner right here has the Glenmorangie.
Yeah, I went ahead and let Hoff kind of just take over the selection, which I typically do.
Yeah,
and palate for it.
You know, this is a great whiskey. There's several Glenmorangies. This is the Quinta Ruban, which is really their sherry cask, sherry oak aged whiskey.
Is that partially named because of the rich ruby color that I'm sort of noticing here on the eyes?
Possibly. I think we have to translate. We get back to Miami, we'll have someone translate it.
Great.
But yeah, it's got a sweetness to it. The Dalmore's got a little more spicy character, a little bit of fruitcake, but that's got a little more of the sweetness.
What'd you call me?
So both are delicious. Look, I can kick your butt, and I will call you fruitcake anytime I want.
I've been working out, okay?
You have been.
Seriously.
Yeah. A lot of lean muscle. So we're drinking those, and those are delicious. I suggest you pick up a bottle. What's great about both these, kind of moderately priced. You're looking at about a $40 to $60 bottle, and very, very tasty.
Literally losing money if you don't taste it.
Just delicious. Wish I had a cigar, or at least some Nicorette.
Tell you what, this has sort of tied it over.
Now, for those of you guys who don't want to learn about whiskey, but want to learn about how to run your practice better, let's go ahead and dive into our topic for the day, which again is
how to shift momentum within your practice's growth.
Absolutely. So I think we've sort of showcased, and that's not the word, sort of
given an overview, if you will.
Given an overview, if I will.
Even if you won't.
And even if I won't. It's becoming a standard, I think, in our podcasts. It's
so.
Almost a filler, like an or a like. We're like, if you will, or even if you won't. Gives you that extra second or two you need to kind of gather your thoughts. So, again, we're looking at a practice where I think very rarely do you see a practice that has 12 growth months in a row, although we're working with several. Call YellowTelescope today and buy what we offer. But most of our practices, even when we grow by large amounts, they're going to have a down month or two. It's sort of outliers. It's standard deviations. It's very challenging to always grow. So regularly, you're going to have, over a 12-month period, probably 2 superb months, probably a couple of not-so-good months, and then a bunch in between that hopefully add up to growth. And so what we don't want to do is be reactionary and just, freak out because you have one down month. But when you have a string of them, we want to talk about kind of what to do about that. So in terms of psychology...
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with exactly how you react to it. I think doctors tend to be somewhat reactionary people. They're sort of controlling people in general, not in a bad way, but just because when you're in the OR, you're in the office, when you're treating patients, you need to be on point. You need to make sure that you're trusting your gut, if you will. Unfortunately, when it comes to managing your team and managing your growth and your business, your gut is not always going to be right.
Because it creates the gut feeling makes you want to react.
Exactly.
If someone throws a punch right at your face right now because you're kind of fruitcake in stature and size,
that's right.
Like yours truly, then you're going to react quickly.
Correct.
And that's what it feels like when you have a terrible month. Like you got punched in the gut, and so you want to react and punch back.
Right. And the punch doesn't feel good, per se. And so I think that what the reaction is often to say, you know what we've been doing doesn't work anymore, therefore we need to change everything.
Got it.
Whereas it's not even so much that what you've been doing hasn't been working, but maybe you just haven't been doing what you should have been doing, or you sort of veered away from the basics, if you will.
Kind of got to get back to your roots, is what you're saying.
Get back to the roots. And so it's easy to freak out your team, call a team meeting, emergency, and then say, okay, we need to change everything, which is really going to shake things up. Not always necessarily the best way to go about it.
Yeah, sort of the pendulum swings, but if the pendulum's over here in a bad area and you try and swing it all the way back, it's almost another extreme, and you've got a different set of problems. Right. When oftentimes you want to sort of unchange the change.
Sort of unchange the change.
Yeah, kind of get back to basics. Sort of have, some basic compartmentalized foods on your plate, spaced out with none of them touching one another, as you always did. Because once they get commingled, you're like, ooh, that's gross. Yeah. There are strawberries in my mashed potatoes.
Hey, they're all going to the same place. Why do you have strawberries in your mashed potatoes?
Exactly. I'd like to compartmentalize them. I'd like to unchange the change I made and get back to where it was before, with my strawberries in this corner for dessert, my mashed potatoes for right now. Okay. All right. We're really craving carbs. So a lot of our analogies, we kind of do a 6th and a 7th and an 8th analogy just to kind of get back to that. Yeah. So good. So the tendency is to be reactionary. Generally. And the team, therefore, is going to feel a little bit frightened. One of our talks today, we talked about, the hierarchy of human need, and, some of the basic needs are once you're fed and clothed and everything's good, then it's a feeling of safety. Right. And if your team all of a sudden sees you freaking out as the practice manager, as the doctor, then they're generally not going to feel as safe, and then immediately it's probably going to affect their work output, which is not going to be as effective if they're not feeling. Or they're going to be on Monster.com that night. Correct. Looking for a job with your competition. Yeah, and one of the things I've actually noticed that a lot of doctors do accidentally, there are those doctors who are just throwing salad bowls at people's faces, which is my typical analogy, but then there's also a lot of doctors who are well-intentioned and generally positive, but will say something in passing to the effect of, guys, we had a really down month, and they don't really translate what that really means. And so the staff, not knowing any better, oftentimes some of your more junior staff who isn't maybe privy to the numbers and what that constitutes might say, oh my gosh, we're down. Maybe I need to go look for a new job because I'm low on the totem pole.
When in reality,
really, what down might mean, we did 200,000 last year, we did 190 this year, and you're still up 50,000 or 70,000 in profit for the month.
Still profitable.
So it's a thing to be weary of.
Yeah.
So I think we've got an idea of the psychology. Any other thoughts on psychology?
Nope.
Got it. So we want to talk about the psychology behind what causes the doctor and the team, and for that matter, the practice manager to react. Then talk about what we can actually implement. And we actually did this recently, and that's what made us think of the story. So a tale of sort of two cities. We worked with a practice, and this was probably a couple years ago, and good or bad, the management team tended to go with a very high intensity, high negativity, and not mean, not punching people in the face, but just a tendency to really drive results through sharing numbers, not sort of in the positive way. So they would have, for example, a Monday morning powwow. And in that Monday morning powwow, if things were good, they would share that, which was nice. But they said, well, if we're going to be fair, we also have to share the negative, which kind of makes sense at first.
Yeah.
And so they get the entire team together, and that meant estheticians, nurses, patient coordinators, practice manager, doctor, everybody who influenced the business. And they would say, well, guys, we had a terrible month last month. Now, bear in mind, that's not so negative. You're not insulting anyone specific. You're not being a terrible manager. But everybody just felt that kind of punch in the gut. And then they would react and say, well, we need to bring in more consults, or we don't need to bring in more consults. We have to make all these changes. And needless to say that the result was, at the end of the year, growth, but very, very little. And there was stress, and there was turnover. And I know 2 out of 3 of their salespeople, patient coordinators, left the business that year.
Yeah.
The one we were training didn't.
Oh, that's right.
Which is great. And we did actually end up getting growth, but it was not very much. We got to about $96,000, $97,000 in growth in a multi-million dollar practice. So we were satisfied considering the circumstances, but that was one way of doing it. In another practice we're actually going to talk about, this literally just ended as of October 30th, but we thought about what if the psychology were different? What if there was an attitude of implementing positive things? And so what we'll talk about is that we have some beliefs about what's right to do in these situations. First and foremost, when you have 2 bad months in a row, that's usually the time, as we'll talk about later in our alarm bell discussion, where alarm bells need to be going off. And 1 bad month, we don't react. We do try to make minor motivational improvements. We don't want to give up after a bad month, but we really want to wait till we see a trajectory that's negative before we try to turn that ship around. And when we do, we like to incentivize based on focusing on the right people, not everyone in the office, because we do not believe your nurse necessarily affected that bad month.
Right.
We do not believe your estheticians sell enough typically to be able to affect that result, although some do. More often than not, it isn't even the practice manager who caused that. More often than not, it is the person who's involved in sales, your patient coordinator, patient advisor, to some extent the manager managing them, and the doctor. That 3 or 4 people, and sometimes 2 if you have a hybrid practice manager, patient coordinator, that really kind of cause the result. And for that matter, part of it's YellowTelescope if we're managing them. We're not perfect either, and we sometimes have an off month.
Yep.
And so it's that group that we have to work with first, implement change through them in a positive way, then roll it out to the rest of the team,
Sort of
which
the
is
nucleus,
stage
if
2.
you will,
Yep.
and then out through there.
You got it. Work through that nucleus, the center of the wheel, and then to the spokes on the wheel from there, and then create positive change. So instead of talking sort of non-specifically about implementable ideas that I ran through real quickly, I wanted to actually use your example because it really was Ed's influence on this particular practice that caused the growth that we got.
I appreciate that very much. And
it's actually pronounced appreciate.
I appreciate that. Sort of
Thank you.
Got a prance on the C, I think.
Yeah, we're also pronouncing the word rather as rather.
That's right.
I actually saw, what's the gentleman's name with the gray hair?
Anderson Cooper.
Anderson Cooper was doing an interview twice on 60 Minutes, and in 2 different moments in the same segment of 60 Minutes, deadpans and says, now, if I understand the upcoming midterm elections, you'd rather elect people that are going to make change. Is that correct? And then he did it again. It is not rather. It is rather.
Can we talk about Ken Burns' double usage of negotiations?
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Ken Burns. That 8-piece jazz,
jazz?
Ken Burns on
Baseball,
jazz on PBS.
Civil War, seen them all.
Unbelievable. What did he do?
Negotiations.
Yes, I saw this. Twice he does it.
Twice in a single interview. Well, the way that typically the negotiations were structured was not typical for your average negotiations.
So he literally pranced on the seat twice while pluralizing the word negotiation.
I think it's a super soft TIA. Negotiations.
Negotiations. So when we're negotiating, yes.
Let's negotiate our way through this podcast.
So let's go ahead and talk through what we did right at the local level and at your level to actually not be reactive and get those results.
Well, what happened, I remember the conversation that we had where we sort of were looking at the numbers for this particular practice and said, all right, something's going on here. The alarm bells went off, as you'll talk about, and we got to right the ship. Before they even really knew it, I think they knew it, they sort of felt it, but at least, part of our job being, sort of their liaison, their sort of de facto VP in this process is to help to anticipate these things. And we saw sort of where things were going and said, all right, we got to nip this in the bud for sure. You and I powwowed. We sort of thought of maybe a few ideas. Number one, of course, was just upping the intensity, helping to, not in a negative way, but sort of saying, all right, ladies, let's get on board. They happen to be two women that are in the practice. And we basically said we need to get them motivated. So what else can we do other than just, a rah-rah speech about how great it would be to make sure that, we grow the doctor's practice, etc.
So I'm hearing step one, they are seeing a shift in the intensity of management.
Yes.
But that shouldn't be confused with success or failure of management.
Almost lost this.
Or positivity or negativity of management.
Yeah.
But rather just a complete shift in the work ethic, desire, focus on the practice, where we always are caring about our practice. We're always working hard, but there's a laser-like focus that sort of shows up.
Right, and so in order to right the ship, and the whole feeling, again, is not major change, but it's back to basics. So we need to make sure that we sort of get back to where we should have been. And, look, you don't have to always have that level of intensity all the time, but in order to right the ship back to where it needs to be, got to get back to the laser-like focus.
So we got focused, we got intense. They noticed a palpable difference in the way management was acting and their expectations.
Yep.
We then said, let's, instead of changing, which is exactly what you think we're going to do, we're going to actually not change. We're just going to say, hey, let's review exactly what we should be doing and get right back to what got us those last 3 good months that we had earlier in the year.
Right.
Got it.
So basically, we also created their goals, really defined what success is, and we had our should-do goal, we had our must-do goal, then our should-do, then our could-do goal.
Okay, so you had 3 different goals based on life or death, the world's end, we hit this.
Right.
Then a big-time goal that we could shoot for excitement.
Yep.
And then a midterm goal. Now, my thought is they say, okay, great, the management's intense, there's a great focus, we're going to return to basics, we've got some real goals, but the first thing I think of is, what's in it for me?
How about that? We get along. Exactly. And so we thought, well, how can we, incentivize them, if you will?
But why should we incentivize? I mean, they did a bad job, theoretically, or at least we did a bad job, or management, everybody did a bad job, or at least the numbers didn't line up. So why on earth are we going to incentivize them now when we're actually losing money? In fact, I think in this practice, we had, after growing 180,000 for the year at that point, I think we gave back almost $100,000 of it in 2 months.
Yep.
I mean, that's a couple of bad river cards in those poker hands.
That's right.
And so I would think that, well, let's go ahead and kind of, A, tighten up on money because we just lost a bunch. And then B, let's sure as hell not give them any incentives because they're the ones who really didn't do that great of a job to get the result.
Well, John, we do tend to veer towards the counterintuitive, if you will.
Yes.
And
it's the YellowTelescope way.
In this particular case, that's exactly what it was. You would think that. We really got to tighten up. We got to tighten the belt, make sure we're not spending too much money because we just lost it. In reality, that is the exact time I feel to reinvest even a little bit further. It doesn't have to be a monster amount. Now, we did make the contest that we devised pretty rich. Now, of course, it's all based on the size of the practice, and it's a pretty big practice.
So what kind of contest did you set if they hit their could do, which is sort of the out there goal, hard to hit, not impossible, but a real challenge?
Well, when incentivizing, I think we're both big believers in not just like a cash bonus or something. That's fine. That's nice, pay the bills, whatever, but that's not exciting. It's not rewarding.
Right.
And so we like to design something that's going to be fun, that's going to be special, that's going to say, when you look back on it, I worked really, really hard. Worked. It's double.
Yep.
And then you sort of rest, but also have an experience that you'll also probably remember.
So it sounds like really also hitting their hot buttons, So some people are going to be very cash motivated. Maybe that works sometimes.
What's motivating?
I think I say it on a lot of podcasts, I think, but I'm motivated by travel, not to Orlando, but to other places. And so, I mean, if someone said to me, I'll give you $2,000, or if someone said to me, I'll give you a trip to Paris, I'd take the flight to Paris because that feels like more money to me than just the money alone. Other people would say, hey, got to pay the car bill, so, the money's the most important thing to me.
So what we decided to do is treat them, basically. If they really hit the goals, then we decided we would put each of them and their significant other up at a 5-star hotel. St. Regis, I believe, is one of the choices.
Got it. I would have gone with the Ritz Carlton
Grand Oaks
Orlando Resort and Casino.
And Casino, Convention Center, pool. Also, spa credit for them and their spouse.
So they got a night in a 5-star hotel.
Yep.
They got a spa credit to get a massage or a facial or whatever.
Treatment of their choice.
A seaweed body wrap.
Cranberry scrub.
Fashioning a breathing apparatus made of kelp. We are allowed one inside joke per podcast. Check.
There it is. Google it. And then on top of that,
it's pronounced goggle.
Either a shopping spree to the store of their choice at a certain amount of, like, in this case, was $500.
Got it.
On top of everything else, or 2 car payments.
So we're looking at about $1,000
yeah,
per person.
Per
so a
person.
couple thousand. So what were the results? What actually occurred?
Well, first, on the initial phone call that I had, which is my weekly call with them, sort of explained the situation directly, not very negatively, but all right, ladies, you probably know what's going on. But we've had 2 bad months in a row, basically, 2 decreased months. So now we got to right the ship. We got to nip this in the bud and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
With
so
me?
Safety goes down to the bottom.
There it is. Safety.
Like I give up. I'm going on Monster.com tonight.
Nope, not at all.
Why?
Well, because we insulated. Said, these things happen, and we just need to sort of get back to basics. But we're going to do this together.
The doctor's positive. We're in it as a team.
Absolutely.
It's not any one person's fault. We all contributed. That includes us and your doctor and your manager and you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to take some responsibility for this because, it's all, everyone has their part in the success and the failure.
Yep.
So we said, what are we going to do right now? Okay, first of all, we're going to micromanage everything. We're going to break it down to the ridiculous. Here are the numbers that we need to hit. Let's look at the month ahead. Let's see what we're going to do. And it's going to be a lot of hard work, but there's also going to be a little bit of a little special prize or something based on which I'll tell you about here at the end.
Ooh.
See? Pique the interest. Pique the interest.
Wonder where that is.
So we broke it down. We said, okay, how many consults do you have this week? How many follow-ups do you have to get through to get more consults? What's the maximum number of consults that we can actually add to this particular week? What are the numbers that we are? What are your hot dates? What are the most important dates for procedures that we need to fill in immediately, if not sooner?
Right.
And how are we going to get there? Then also saying, not only are we going to do our scheduled usual weekly call, but I want you to email me an update tomorrow at the end of the day to let me know what you've done by today
so
and
you
tomorrow.
See the extra work, the intensity of the management, not just setting goals, but breaking it down, saying, where are there opportunities? What are the basics we've strayed from? What are the things that maybe we're doing but not doing as well as we have before? Sort of the old checkup from the neck up.
The old checkup from the neck up, that's
Sure.
right. Get a little cloudy in here, let's see what's going on. Okay? So they were on board. I said, and then of course asking for their commitment, gaining the commitment, just like we do with patients and firming up appointments. I said, is this something you ladies think you can do? Yes. Great.
I like it.
They got
Before
on
you
board.
even told them the contest.
Before I even told them the contest.
You got
They
buy-in
felt
before contest. Because if you don't have buy-in,
right,
you tell them the contest and they say, well, that sounds great. You
Yep.
have to grow by $7 million in a month, and that's great that I could win a spa package, but it's never going to happen.
Right.
Got it.
But first committing, having them commit that they could actually achieve this.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm totally there to support them. Say, look, I'm going to be there the whole way. Whatever you guys need, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever objection you find with any of the patients, anything you feel is not working, let me know immediately, if not sooner, because we're going to do this together.
And I know we set a fairly short contest because people don't stay motivated for 7 months at a
2
time.
months.
So I think it was really a 2-month contest based
right.
on a 1-month result even.
Right, so
we
if they
said
didn't hit the number for the first month,
they don't
doesn't
get a
continue.
shot at this at the second month.
But if they do hit it, then they have to do it again for the same goal for the second month.
Because that's right, it's a could-do goal, not a must or a should.
That's right.
And they're going to win a $1,000 prize, and it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
So what were the results from that? And I know not every contest always works, and we're not perfect either, but this one happened to work, and we thought it was so much better than simply getting everybody together,
Yep.
telling them how terrible things were,
Right.
telling them we expect them to work harder, and that there won't be any bonuses, and there won't be any, figgy pudding for dessert.
Well, the best part of
It's a British
of
practice.
the call, that's right. You're figgy pudding, getting ready for the holidays, aren't you? We had sort of a high five go team.
Is that even a dessert?
A figgy pudding.
Yeah, I think pudding is sort of a British sort of like...
It's sort of a bread-based.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You know, sort of like sweetbreads are neither sweet nor
Did you ever
bread.
do that? A plum? Did you ever have a plum?
You know, like, I'll have some sweetbreads for dessert. You sure, sir?
Uh-huh.
Cheerio. Chip.
Did you ever do
Typical
that
of you
thing?
Americans, never thinking any further back than your own well-history.
Go on.
That's actually a quote from a video game that I played growing up. Dracula Unleashed for Sega CD, if I may date myself.
That's amazing. What
Yeah.
happened to that?
Well, the future happened to that.
Nice. I like the future. So at the end of the call,
Yep.
I got him pumped up. I said, all right, now, icing on the cake. The icing on your figgy pudding is the following. They were like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. The contest, laid it out. I said, if you reach these goals for these 2 months, laid out the rules, we will do the following. Night at the hotel, spa package, shopping spree.
You just drop the mic.
Boom.
Just go,
I'm out.
boom.
I'm out.
I like
And
it.
then they were like, wow. Then they were lit up. And so we ended the call on a super positive note. And I said, go get him. Let's see how it goes.
And that's it. Then you ignore them for 2 months and then figure out how it all turns out.
Absolutely not. But I appreciate your sarcasm as always. No. We basically said it, they had additional accountability now. And so we went and said, okay, let me know how you do by the end of the day tomorrow. So it was, in
immediate.
the morning, Monday morning call. By the end of Tuesday, send me an update how we're doing and what the plan is.
I'm
for the
hearing
next few
happening
days.
from Ed Searing.
What's that?
Sales psychology. I'm hearing that we're creating habits now. We got them excited about it now through immediate daily updates through the Practice Manager, Yellow Telescope, or otherwise, creating the I'm going to be held accountable. I'm going to be held accountable. I'm going to be held accountable. But I'm excited about it because I have something in it for me.
Yep.
And then after a certain period of time, it almost becomes clockwork.
Yep.
Because I know by month 2, and of course the end of the story is that they had a great first month. How much did we grow in month 1?
70,000.
So we actually went from negative 70 to positive 70 in 1 month. So $140,000 turnaround.
And then because of the change in momentum, month 2 grew by 150.
Grew by 150?
Grew by 150.
Say literally for October, and this is September and October, the traditionally worst months in plastic surgery. This happened to be a plastic surgeon's office.
Yeah.
Again, regardless whether it's orthodontist, there's periodontist,
right,
dermatologist,
derms,
somethingist.
ENTs.
Yeah,
fine.
but for this particular practice, this is total off season, and we still created $150,000 in growth for that one practice in October.
Yep.
So a $220,000 growth in 2 months. And bear in mind, we did pay out. It cost $2,000.
Right.
And they're happy as clams. Plus, they got bonuses and commissions and all those other things as well, because that's what they're paid to do as a job.
Right.
But that extra kicker is going to be wonderful. And you know what I love about the kicker is even if you didn't want to be that rich in terms of the contest value, because that was an expensive contest, even if you don't want to spend a couple $1,000s in a contest, your numbers might be smaller. What's exciting about the investment is because it isn't just cash in their pocket, they're going to have a true memory, like you said before. When you get to check in at a hotel with your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend, and you get to spend a beautiful evening eating at a 5-star restaurant within that hotel. You get a really good rub down, getting the kinks out that you earned over those last 2 months. You get to go out and shop and buy a nice new dress or new wallet or new briefcase or new iPad or whatever it is that floats your boat. And every time you look at those products that you purchase and every time you think about that experience, you say, that's because I basically showed up and did a good job.
Yep.
And that gets really, really exciting. So I think contests should be used few and far between, but they can be really, really motivating. You did a great job.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Hey, here's to that, Dr. Success.
Yeah, I want to
All
try
right.
yours. Can we do a little switchies after
Ooh,
this sip?
we could. There it is.
So good. That's the topic. I hope you got some value out of it. Is there anything in the news?
There usually is.
Yeah, we usually anybody. I think last time someone had stuck a towel got stuck in their stomach during a surgery and lasted there for 40 years.
I think it was 25 years, but still an egregious amount of time nonetheless.
And the man didn't die.
No.
He just thought he had a tumor.
It's like, I got a little tummy ache. No, sir, it's a quarter-century-old towel. It's like, huh.
Really impressive.
Can we get that out?
Impressive.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the towel was blue-green, I believe. Surgical sort of, scrub colors, if you will.
Yeah.
So we really opened up the reviews. I want to thank Tara D, actually, from Wisconsin practice, for sending over the link. Didn't even know this. Now I'm actually just going to get all of my news.
Listener-submitted news.
Listener-submitted
We appreciate
news.
it. Send all of your information
Thank
and
you.
thoughts to info@yellowtelescope.com or guardian@seoversight.com. If you're looking for specific tips on specific subjects related to web design, getting more leads, or running your practice better from hiring, staffing, training, and long-term oversight, or you just really want us to cover something silly, or you want to talk about Scotch for no particular reason,
Even better.
want a featured bottle, just email us.
Absolutely.
Let us know. Don't call us if it's just a bottle of Scotch, because we don't have the time to have a full conversation about that, but email us.
Please. So, We're just going right down.
I may make
from
time if you're a real connoisseur.
medical news today.
Okay, so let's do it.
That sort of thing. So
we're gonna riff.
Instead of a general sort of focus to, we're just going with a smattering, if you will.
Improvisation. Good.
Indeed. It's like Second City, Chicago style.
I love it.
This is it. All right, we're gonna keep it, not like the after-hour show, but like the dinner time show.
Yeah, last time got PG-13,
Yeah,
borderline
PG-13.
R. We're gonna keep things somewhere between, well, probably the same.
I don't like to edit things.
Nope.
Okay. Doctors directly scientists convert human skin cells directly into brain cells.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know how they do it. Happened.
They just convert stem cells into...
Not stem, skin.
Skin cells into... Well,
yeah.
So the skin is your largest body organ. Did you know that?
I did. It's the largest body organ.
At least for most men.
We just went right over.
I told you it's possible. So that means you could have an enormous brain power.
That's right.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm covered in my brain.
So if you get a basal cell carcinoma, does that give you a brainzel cell carcinoma?
Brainzel cell.
No.
It's a brainzel cell.
Oh, let's go on to the next one.
Moving on. Chocolate could prevent obesity and diabetes.
You went with Wilford Brimley
I went
again.
with Wilford Brimley.
It's the right thing to do and a healthy way to do it. Diabetes.
That's right.
Well, first of all, I think so. Chocolate could prevent diabetes.
Correct.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, it could.
Yep.
For example, you could have one bite of chocolate a day and eat nothing else, and then your sugar intake would be way lower.
I suppose.
I mean, by the way, French fries could cause weight loss. Have one every third day and don't eat anything else.
So it's a problem that I ate all of my Halloween candy that night?
Yeah, after reading the article. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things could be a lot of things.
I was like,
could be 7 feet tall. I could be.
No diabetes. This is it. This is me not having diabetes. Eating chocolate. It's fine. A contraceptive microchip could revolutionize global birth control.
Yes, it sounds like it would hurt.
I suppose.
Those things have edges. They're metal, I assume.
These days,
plastic
though,
even.
These days, they didn't even have to be square. No hard corners.
Look, anything with the word chip in it doesn't need to be involved in that whole act. Potato chips, microchips.
That's contraception enough.
Yes.
Really, when you
it's like a chastity belt. That was the original, basically a big piece of metal over your daughter or son's sort of Renaissance area.
Sort of like a Renaissance fair. Is that your Renaissance area?
Well, it's a Renaissance affair. If you back then, that's actually what you call it when you're dating someone outside of your marriage back during those times. It's a Renaissance affair.
It's like I think the chastity belt was the Renaissance. All right.
Oh, you can tell it's turning dark out here.
You know what's funny? Schizophrenia is made up of 8 specific genetic disorders, but none of them have ever met.
Actually, it was originally called schizophrenia.
Because you have a lot of friends?
This is. We don't mean to be offensive. It's a very serious matter.
Narcissism
and isn't actually what most people think it is.
Narcissism can be diagnosed with a single question.
Well,
who's
if
the
I'm
best?
the one answering it. I'm not sure if you've heard about me, but I can answer whatever questions you have in only one answer.
This guy. All right, we'll do a couple of more here.
I'm loving it.
Women are more attracted to masculine mates during ovulation. How about that?
What makes someone more masculine, though? Furrier?
Good question.
More testosterone? Anger?
I suppose. I read something recently about facial hair.
Poor responses to bad putting and mini golf?
So don't bend your club, don't throw your club. Is what you're saying. I've been going about it all wrong.
Yeah.
So we do maybe one more?
One more.
Okay.
Make it a good one. Wah, wah, wah.
Alzheimer's drug seems to cure baldness?
Well, he just remembers having more hair.
Are you my hair? And that's it.
Bear in mind, was the Alzheimer's drug called Propecia? Or Rogaine? Or I forgot I had a hair transplant last month?
Whoops.
That's actually how you cure your hair loss.
Yep.
Well, very good. Good news. I think decent riffing. Thank you for bearing with us out there in podcast land.
We think we're hilarious.
Well,
I think that. Oh,
Last two things we want to talk about. It's Thanksgiving coming up around the time you're listening to this. We like to talk about what we're thankful for. We're going to riff on that, and then we're going to kind of wrap things up. First of all, I'm thankful for my healthy and happy baby boy. Excuse me, I just burped. 15 months old. He's running. He says, "Dada, Mama, this, and agua."
Agua. That's right.
He loves FaceTiming with Unky Ed.
Yes.
So I'm real grateful for that.
Love that kid.
Happy for my wife and the health of our family. Happy to have a successful business and really to believe the business we do genuinely helps people and helps businesses. In fact, it fits our why. We help motivated people reach their capacity. I'm thankful for being healthier, but also the return of scotch to my life in just a few more days. I'm not giving that one up. Still weed ram from time to time.
I'm really glad you decided to cheat just for this.
Thankful for you, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
You've been integral to the success of our business. I'm thankful for my whole team, and that includes really the whole gang. We got Aneth, Dan, Ed,
right.
Dean, JJ,
Yep.
John Barry.
Yep.
Did I say Aneth?
Yep.
Taina?
Yep.
Erica?
The whole gang. Andrea.
Yep. Gary? Fred the insuranceman? All those people. Great team we have. Probably a lot I'm leaving out. Real thankful to be leaving Orlando tomorrow, but having a nice time tonight.
Yeah,
Getting back to sunny Miami to enjoy myself for a great weekend.
We got to wrap this up. It's almost getting a little chilly outside.
Yeah, it's brisk.
About to go drop below 70.
Oh, yeah.
I needed like a second layer.
What about you, Eddie Money?
I'm thankful
Edlicious?
for the podcast.
Yep.
Generally, just because it's a nice outlet.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't ever really get to be witty or talk very much, usually in my day-to-day life. Secondarily, definitely, of course, thankful for the family. No children of my own, but thankful for yours because I get to pretend
that you're aware of.
I get to
to be spread out throughout the country for all we know by now.
No. Those are just my successful clients.
Ed's a virgin.
That are my
fact.
That are my children. Each practice is my baby.
Yes.
I am thankful, of course, for the family that I've got and everybody that's related. My friends, new friends, old friends, my relationships, my success with you, I would say, opportunities, growing things. Am I getting too cliche?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. No, I'm thankful for so much, and I'm excited about 2015.
Yeah, we picked our one word, did you know?
That's right.
Yeah, well, the word for this year was organic, and we really grew organically this year, and it really worked out great. And our word for next year, try to focus on one word, is diversify. And that doesn't mean opening 6 new companies, but really expanding our reach and talking to new people in new areas and people we haven't had a chance to touch, and we're excited about it.
Yep, and in fact, we're going to have at least one more additional podcast before the end of the year. At
least one. I think we're going to be recording next time from Orange County.
California.
Heading out to the St. Regis Monarch Beach Resort, one of my favorites. By the way, if you ever get the personal butler there, it is awesome. That really didn't come across as anything less than elitist, but I don't mean that. We were upgraded. We were upgraded to that. We didn't pay for that.
Yeah, we're going to see if we
I'm
can
not used to being doted. I was
tricks.
just a public school kid. I was just sort of raised to not have people do things for me, but once in a great while, it's nice to be served and it's nice to serve.
I don't need full-time hot and cold running servants.
Yeah, but it's going to be nice to be back out in Cali. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up this year.
Oh, yeah.
To wrap up, by the way, just if you're coming to any of these upcoming events, we're heading out to Atlanta in March for Dr. Langston's big meeting in Atlanta, which is going to be really exciting. We're heading out to Vegas, as always, in June for the multi-specialty meeting, Dr. Waldman's, which is great. We are heading out to Coachella to go to a concert. It's going to be great because we go to an awesome place every year.
It's fine.
Last year, Govball. The year before, Bonnaroo. But done Lollapalooza. But we're awesome, and we're heading out to Coachella next year in California before heading to a 7,000 doctor ophthalmology meeting, the ASOA meeting out in San Diego.
It's a big one.
We are heading to New York in December just to help the practice grow.
That's right.
Meeting up with a bunch of great doctors for some nice meals. So if you're going to be in New York, holler at us if you want to come meet up for a bite to eat or a drink. We'll be hanging out for about a week, the first week of December.
We're around.
What else am I missing? Heading out to Toledo.
Yes.
Heading out to Chevy Chase. Got some new YellowTelescope clients that have signed on.
Exciting.
Really pleased with the growth of SE Oversight and YellowTelescope. Really thankful for both of those. YellowTelescope had its largest year ever. SE Oversight, really from scratch. We've signed an average of over a new client a week since our inception. There's really no end in sight. We haven't even tried advertising yet, which is really starting to come out pretty soon. So a lot of good partnerships happening. So wrapping up, if you have questions, contact us. Go to YellowTelescope.com. A lot of great information. Sign up for a complimentary newsletter at seoversight.com. If you're already getting our Yellow Telescope email newsletter, get more web updates from seoversight.com.
Yep.
That's SE Oversight. Any way you spell it, it'll come out the right way. And YellowTelescope.com. If you haven't, if you're watching this on YouTube, or listening on our website, make sure you download from the iTunes store from any iPhone, tablet, computer, the Yellow Telescope, YellowTelecast by simply searching one word, Yellow Telescope, all spelled, no spaces, Yellow Telescope.
YellowTelescope, YellowTelecast.
Best practice for the best practices.
That's right.
And what else? Anything else they can get from us? Yeah, there's a lot of old speeches. There's a lot of
Witty repartee.
articles, witty repartee. And listen to our past episodes to learn a whole bunch more. What else do you have for me, Ed?
Welcome your feedback. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we're excited for the next one from OC.
And we apologize for broadcasting from Orlando.
Cheers, buddy. That's a way to finish right there.
I think I even had my angel share that glass. I got every little tiny last, even the ether, just kind of breathed it in. Yeah, it was good.
It's fine. Paint
I said should have had a cigar or a Nicorette, but so it goes.